Hey guys, this is Balu and today in this tutorial I will show how we can create this kind of CGI ads using VFX in Blender easily. So hope you guys will find the video useful, and without any further delay, let's start today's video. So here I'm in After Effects and I am using this clip which I got from Pexels. Download link in the description if you want to use the same. So here you can see this got some camera movement and the perspective is also changing. So first of all, let's track the footage. So select the footage from this layer, come to this tracker options. If you not find these tracker options here, go to this window and enable tracker from here. After that, click on this track camera. So simply click on this track camera. So it starts to analyze our footage and gives us some tracking points when it is done. So here the tracking is done and we got some track points here. So first of all, come to this advanced options and check for average error. So here the average error is 0.75 pixels, which is okay. So still, if you want to reduce the error, just click on this detailed analysis option. It will track the footage once again and gives us lot more track points, and which may reduce the error value. So here this value is okay, and now I need to select the points where I want to place the CGI element. So at this position I want to place the CGI element, so I will select the track points here. So hold left mouse key and simply draw on the track points here, and after that right click, create solid and camera. So if I play this now, you can see the track solid is following the camera movement and it is staying in that position. Okay, so now we need to export this tracking data into Blender. So here I am using scripts which are free to download. You can check a link in the description for the video where I have explained how to download and install, or else you can click on the I button which is on the top right corner of this video. Okay, so now let's select this track solid and 3D camera. Come to this file option, scripts, and click on this export composition data to JSON. Just click on that. So from here, select a location where you want to save the file, and after that simply click on this export button and it will be exported. So now we can close After Effects. So here I'm using Blender 4.1 version. Now let's import that data. So go to this file option, import, select this After Effects composition data, right? Simply click on that and look at the file. So here is the data and import AE comp. So here you can see we got this camera and the solid which is created in After Effects. And first of all, let's adjust the time length here. So here I think the time length is of 350 frames. Okay, so let's come to this 350th frame, 360 frame, and let's change this to 360. Now select the camera, press 0 on the keyboard, and now let's import our footage. So being selected this camera, come to this camera options, enable this background images, expand this one, add image, and from here change this to movie clip and select our clip. So open, so select the footage and open clip. So here you can see we got our footage, and let's increase the opacity. So here we can increase the opacity to 1. So if I play this now, you can see we got our tracking data transported, but this is looking bit off. That is because this Blender starts from frame 1, whereas After Effects starts from frame 0. So we need to move one frame forward our tracking data. So let's select the tracking data. So here you can see it is starting from 1, right? So press A on the keyboard to select all the keyframes, press G and move one frame backward. Now our tracking data will be perfect. So now if I play this, you can see the track solid is following the camera movement. Now let's adjust the FPS. So come to this output properties here. So here the frame rate is of 24 frames, right? This we need to match with the actual footage. So let's come to the footage here, right click and come to this properties. Let's check the FPS. So in details we can say this is of 23.98 frames per second, right? So now we need to do the same here. So let's change the frame rate to 23.98 and the resolution is of full HD only, so that's why it is okay here. Nice. So now let's bring our track solid onto the grid here so that we can place CGI elements easily. So for that we can directly select this camera and tracking solid and move them onto this position. So first we need to create an empty and we need to parent that empty to this camera and also to this solid. So first of all, let's create an empty, and before do that, let's bring this cursor onto this camera. So select this axis here, shift S and select this cursor to selected. Now we got the cursor here. So now let's add an empty. So go to this add empty select this plane axis, press S and increase the scaling. So now let's parent the camera. So select the axis first, hold shift key and select the parent. Now control P and select this keep object keep transform. Now we have parented the camera to this empty, and in the same way let's parent this solid. So select the solid, hold shift key and select the empty, control P and select this object keep transform. So now we can move this entire scene using this empty. So let's place this. So G and let's bring it here. Press 7 for top view and let's bring it at the center. So G and move this at the center. Now press 3 for side view. So here the plane is rotated, right? So let's rotate the empty so that our grid will be straight enough. So I think this is fine. Press G, Z and let's place this here. So Z, Z. Yeah. Now press 1 on the keyboard for front view, and yeah, from front view I think this is fine. So now if I press 0 and if I play this, you can see nothing has changed here. We have placed our plane onto the grid nicely. Nice. So now let's add CGI elements onto this. So here I will be using this Blender kit to get the models. And by the way, Blender kit is free to download. So I will search for a shoe model. So search as shoe. So here I will be using this model. Before importing this model, first I need to place this cursor onto this world axis. So select the plane, shift S and cursor to selected. So now we got our cursor point here, or else we can say shift S cursor to world origin. So here you can see we got the origin here. Now let's click on this model. So it will be loaded on that cursor point. So here you can see we got the model. Let's close this one. Let's right click and select the objects, press S and increase the scaling. So now you can see we got that model, and I think it is parent to this empty. So first of all, let's delete the empty. So select the empty, Alt P, clear and keep transform. Now you can select the shoe model, Alt P, clear and keep transform. Now we can select the empty and delete it. So I think this is fine. Press 0 to see through camera. Let's select the model and let's place this. So let's rotate this here, and also let's place the shoe model here. Let's change this axis to local and rotate this here a bit, and also change this to global and bring it at the top. 0, press Z, Y. Let's place the model here, and also I think we need to adjust this. So this thing, and yeah, and also let's adjust in this way also. Let's select the model and let's place this here. Okay. So now if I play this, you can see we got our model placed here, and it is also following the camera movement. Nice. So now let's move on to this next portion, which is very interesting, like peeling off the skin of the shoe to reveal another shoe. So for that, let's select the shoe model. Let's come out of this camera, and first of all let me hide out this plane. Select the plane and let me hide out this plane. So let's select the shoe model, duplicate it by pressing Shift D, and here we got this duplicated model, right? So I will change this to paint, and let's hide out this original model. So select this model and let's check the mesh count. So if I change this to wireframe mode, so here the mesh is a bit heavy, so I will first reduce this mesh count. So come to this modifier options, add modifier, come to this generate and select this decimate modifier. So here the face count is 17,000 change, but I will reduce this to 0.15, and now it came to 5,000. Okay, now let's apply this one, or else let's change this to 0.2 and let's apply this. And if I change this to material viewport, still this is looking good with a low poly. Nice. So now this is duplicated one, right? This is the original one. So now we need to make this duplicated one bit larger to this original one. So let's hide out this original one. So this is the original shoe. So you can say this is overlapping. So let's hide out this one. Now select this duplicated shoe model, come to this modifier options, add modifier, come to this deform and select this displace. So mid level, increase this to 1 first. Now hold shift key and reduce the value a bit so that it will be a bit larger. So 0.999, I think this is fine. So now if I enable this original shoe model, we can say it is not overlapping. So if I hide this out, you can see this is overlapping. So after adding this modifier, it is not getting overlapped. So for that reason, we have added this displace modifier. Now let's hide out this original shoe model, select this paint, which is duplicated model. So now let's change this to wireframe mode so that we can see clearly what is happening. So now let's add particles onto this. So come to this particles properties and click on this plus icon and let it be emitter, and change this end frame value to 1 so that we get all the particles at the starting frame. And lifetime, I will increase this more than our timeline, so I will change this to 450 frames. And scroll down, expand this source value, enable this use modifier options, and disable this random order. Now enable this random rotation option. Come to this physics, and physics type, change it to none because we don't want any physics acting on this body. And come to this render options, and render as, change it to none. And come to this viewport display, change this to point so that we get these points visible. And size, I will reduce this to 0.02. So now you can see we got these particles visible. So if you want to have the peeling effect with more pieces, we need to increase the particle count. So here I will reduce the particle number to like 250. I think 250 is fine. So here you can see the number is reduced, right? Nice. So after that, scroll down, come to this field weight options and change this gravity to 0. We don't want any gravity acting on this body. And after that, come to this modifier once again, and let's add explode modifier, add modifier, physics, and add this explode modifier. So after that, just enable this cut edges so that we can get the seams created. Okay. So now let's add cloth modifier onto this. So being selected the model, come to this add modifier, physics, add cloth, and come to this physics property. So these are the properties of the cloth. So here I will be leaving all to default. So scroll down, come to the shape option. So if I play this now, you can see the model will be falling down, right? So we need to make this model stay in this position. So for that, we will be using the shape option. So press tab key for edit mode. Press A to select all the vertices here. Select this data properties. Click on this plus icon to create a vertex group, and I will change this as pins, and click on this assign button. That means we have assigned all the vertices onto this pin group and we have assigned them. So now again press tab key to exit this edit mode. So come to this physics property once again, scroll down, come to the shape option, and in pin group we need to select the group which we have created. So click here and select the pin group. So now if I play this, the model will not fall down. Nice. So after that, come to this field weights. Here also we need to change the gravity to 0. And another important thing is, come to this catchy options, right? Here you can see simulation start frame and end frame is only 1 to 250, but our timeline is of 360 frames. But for simulation, we need to keep the frame rate more than that of our timeline. So I will change this to 450 frames. Okay. So now come to this modifier once again, and here we need to add proximity modifier. So add modifier, edit, and add this vertex weight proximity. So in vertex group, let's select the group which we have created, that is the pins group. And in target object, we need to select an empty. So let's create an empty here. So go to this add empty, and here I will use this cube. So let's increase the scaling, press 3 for side view, and let's place this here, press 1 on the keyboard, and let's place this here first. Okay, so let it be here. So now beyond the first frame, press I on the keyboard to add a keyframe. Now move forward in timeline. So here I will be using 220 frames. So let's move on to 220 frame and let's bring it here so that the model is covered entirely. So I think this much is fine, and press I on the keyboard and add a keyframe once again. So now if I play this, we will have this animation. So we need to have this a bit constant speed, at constant speed. So press A on the keyboard to select these both keyframes, press a T and select this linear. So now the speed will be constant. So now we got this empty animation, right? So now let's select the model. In target object, let's select the empty which we have created just now, and the proximity, change it to geometry. So here you can see we got this lowest and highest value, right? Now we are going to set that. So for that, let's change this to weight paint and let's play this animation. So here nothing seems to be happening. So if I change this lowest value, here you can see we are getting this kind of gradient trend. So let's the lowest be 3.7 and the highest be 4.3. Okay, after that change this fall off to smooth. Whenever this empty will be moving onto this object, at that time only we will get the peel animation, so that the reveal of other model will be visible. So for that reason we have set this lowest and highest value and changed this to fall off to smooth. So let's change this to object mode once again, and so let's close this modifiers. So now let's add a force field. So go to this add force field, add wind here, press S and increase the scaling. So I will bring this here. So I think, yeah, this is fine. Let's bring it straight to the model, or else let it be in this way. Okay, and come to these properties, physics properties, and increase the strength to, I think 1000 will be fine. So we have added force field and the strength of 1000. So now if I play this, we should have the effect, but here we are not finding the effect. The reason is simple. Select the model, come to this modifiers. Here the cloth modifier should be last. So remember this one, the cloth modifier should be the last one. So now if I play this, we will have the effect. So here you can see we are getting the effect. Nice. So now let's bring back the model, original model. So here we got the model, right? So we need to have the collision property applied on this model so that these pieces react with the original model. So select the original model, come to the physics property, add collision onto that, come to this cloth simulations part, and let's reduce the friction to 0. So now let's select this duplicated model for which we have applied that peel effect, right? So select that one, come to this physics property, scroll down to the collisions and enable self collisions also. So here enable the self collisions. So I think this is fine. Let's save the project here, and let's add some turbulence if you want to have some distribution of air here. So go to this add, come to this force field and add turbulence. So press S and increase the scaling, and let's place the turbulence value here. So I think let it be here, and strength for this turbulence I will make this 250. So I think this is fine. So now let's bake the simulation. So select this duplicated model for which we have applied the cloth simulation, scroll down, come to the catchy options. So here I think we don't want to have this simulation end frame more than that of timeline, so I will change this to 360 only, but we want to have the particles lifetime to be more than that of the timeline. So here the lifetime we have set more than that of timeline. This is fine, but for this bake option I think we don't need more frames. So 360 is fine as that of our timeline. Now just click on this bake button. So here the bake is done, and if I play this now, you can see we got this cool effect done properly. Nice. So now let's move on to this material report. So come to the starting frame here, move on to this material report here. So select this duplicated model where we have applied the cloth simulation. So you can say I have selected this duplicated model, come to this material properties, and let's delete the material. So first of all, click on this number to unlink the texture for other model also, and let's delete the material here. So click on this minus to delete the material. So now we don't have any texture onto this. So come to this material properties. Here I will be using this blender kit only to get the textures, and here I will look for cloth. So from here I will select this cloth. So simply click on that and the texture will be loaded onto this model. So now you can see we got the cloth material applied, and now if I play this, we will have this cloth, outer cloth getting peeled off to reveal the original model here. So this is looking good. Nice. So now let's move on to this render viewport. So let's move forward in timeline a bit like this. So I think, yeah, let it be here like this. And now let's move on to this render viewport. So here the scene is looking dark because there is no light in the scene. So press 0 on the keyboard to see through camera. Come to these options to find the HDRS, and let's bring back the HDRA. So I think this HDR will be working fine. So simply click on that and let's use 512 pixels only and okay. So now we got light in the scene. Now come to this render properties, enable ambient occlusion. Let's change the distance to 5 and enable the screen space reflections and the refractions also. Come to this film options and make it transparent. So now we got our original footage here. So here I will be using cycles engine. So first of all, change this to cycles and device, change it to GPU compute. So here we have this track solid, right? I will use this to catch the shadows. So select this plane here, select the plane, come to this properties, object properties, scroll down, visibility, and enable this shadow catcher. So now we got some shadows visible. So now for time being, let's change this to EV and come to this world properties. Let's increase the strength a bit to 2 so that we get some lighting, or else let's change this to 1.5 and come to this output properties and resolution. I will be leaving this to full HD only. Enable this render region, crop to render region. So frame start and end 1 to 360 is fine. Come to this output properties. Let's select a folder where we can save the output files. So here I have selected a folder to save the output files, and file format, let it be PNG, and make sure this RGBA is selected, and I think this is fine. And first of all, let's come to this render settings, scroll down, come to this color management and change this view transform to standard so that we get the true colors of the footage. And now I think we don't want that much light, so I will change this to 1. And after that, let's change this to cycles engine once again. So now you can see we got the model and also we got the shadows appearing here. So here you can see the shadows are appearing in this way, right? So now let's add sunlight. So go to this add, come to this light, add sun here. So let's rotate the sun. So now you can see we are getting the shadows. So here the shadows are matching. So if you want to increase the strength of the shadow, we need to increase the light strength. So if I increase this to 2, we will have some strength added to the shadows. So I think this is looking good. So now let's move on to this render settings once again. Scroll down, come to this render options, maximum samples. I will change this to, I think only 32 samples are enough for my system. And threshold also I will change this to 0.1. If your system can manage, you can increase this samples value. Scroll down, come to this light paths. Here total 12 paths are there, right? Bounces. I'll change this to 6, and here I'll change this to 6. So all these settings are to reduce the render time. So once this is done, go to this render and click on this render animation. So you'll get the PNG sequence rendered. After that, use any editing software like After Effects for compositing. So in this way, we can create this kind of CGI advertisements using VFX in Blender easily. So hope you guys have learned something new from this tutorial. If you have learned anything new, please like, share and subscribe my channel to support me. So we'll meet in the next video. Until then, signing off. Take care. Bye.